This story has it all: aliens, ancient rocks, a mad professor, and what else can I tell you? Find out for yourself. Watch out for spoilers. This is Swan. As you can guess, if her popularity matches her looks, Swan is just an ordinary girl, except for her obsession with space. Every morning, on her way to class, she devours at least 50 pages of some book about the cosmos. Of course, this only happens when Tien and her group of harpies don't show up to make fun of her for those interests. When Swan picks up her books from the ground, our Prince Yi-hai appears, the most handsome boy in the whole school. His popularity is overwhelming, just like his athletic talent and excellent grades. Worried about looking cool on his skateboard, Yi-hai didn't notice that Swan was on the ground and ends up falling on top of her. Just like the other girls, Yi-hai ignores Swan. Only Tae, one of his best friends, stops to help her up. Because she was late picking up her things, they didn't even let her into the classroom. Later, her friend Jing promises to help her with her homework. While she follows Yi-hai everywhere, Swan finds out that he doesn't have a perfect life either, since his father is a wealthy businessman who doesn't approve of his dream of becoming a professional soccer player. In Swan's family, her brother Yu-chen isn't very helpful either. He ignores his sister at school because he doesn't want to be associated with her. Without the support of her brother, and with a family that doesn't understand her interests, Swan wishes she could disappear, or maybe have been born on another planet as an alien girl or something. Another day during an adventure with her friends, Swan and Jing went diving. Everything was fine until Swan saw a glow at the bottom. There she found a shining rock, and when she touched it, a strange magic surrounded her body. When she came out, something had happened to her. Swan had changed, and it was as if another person was living inside her. The doctors tried to help her, but Swan was no longer in her body, it was someone else. And there really was someone else, because it turns out that an alien princess who knows nothing about our customs had entered her body. Her name is Rui, and she is a warrior from the start of Scorpio, although she still doesn't understand why she's here. Jing, her friend, thinks that if Swan sees Yi-hai, she will feel better, but Rui shows no interest in him at all. The only thing we know is that Rui arrived too late to save her planet, which now gives her nightmares as she inhabits a human body. A body that is extremely weak, but it seems that's something she can improve with her extraterrestrial abilities. That night, she runs away from home, and while trying to get used to eating so she doesn't lose energy, she confronts some jerks, which ends with her being detained. Since Yi-hai is the only name she remembers, the police call him to pay her bail. On the other hand, we meet the professor, an individual who seems to know about the existence of extraterrestrials on our planet and is dedicated to hunting them down to discover their intentions. One day, his men have tracked down a pair of aliens. When they found themselves cornered, the husband sacrificed himself so that Lena could escape. Back with Rui, she steals her mother's computer to send a message by hacking into one of the world's most powerful satellites. The next morning, all the kids are sent to a military camp, and Rui joins in, hoping to find something useful to use. As expected, Rui outperformed everyone in the tests, especially in shooting, where Yi-hai was the champion. That night, fate brings them together again during their watch duty. Now that Swan isn't swooning over him, Yi-hai actually starts to show some interest in her. In his laboratory, the professor has Rong, Lena's husband, and is torturing him to make him reveal his plans. The next morning, not only does Yi-hai suffer from his defeat on the training field, but Rui also breaks all previous records. On the other hand, the professor has come up with a way to extract the alien from its host body and threatens Rong with this if he doesn't talk. Lena escapes and days later manages to find Rui. She warns him about the professor and transfers a bit of mental power to him so he can adapt more quickly. That night, Lena falls into the professor's hands again, and Rui manages to locate the place where he conducts his experiments. Now that Rui is the best student in the entire school, she is invited to a special class along with the Harpies and Yi-hai. Later that same day, Rui discovers that her message never got through, so she believes that with a better computer, she will be able to communicate with the remaining survivors. But to get access to this computer, she needs money, so she gets a job right at the place where Yi-hai works. Previously, she found his presence annoying. But ever since Swan, or rather Rui, stopped throwing herself at his feet, he started to find her interesting. Unfortunately, the professor manages to track down her location. All that's left is for them to find out she's not a teenager, and then the problems will begin. That night, after a long shift at the mall, a couple forgot their small child, and Yi-hai had to stay late to wait for the parents. Rui stayed with him just to earn some extra money, which gave them a chance to spend time together. Later, when she got home, Rui was confronted by Yu-chen, who had discovered her identity thanks to a hidden camera he had installed in the living room. Yu-chen threatens to turn her in but calms down when Rui tells him that Xuan is fine and that she agrees with all of this. That same day, the professor showed up at her house offering a supposed new scholarship for students, a clear ploy to confirm his suspicions about Rui. Rui manages to evade him for now, but that same night, his men were already planning an attack against her, so after a perfect ambush, Rui ended up inside a huge glass capsule where the professor extracts the mental power of the invaders. He shows her that he already has almost enough power in one capsule to build a weapon more powerful than anything the world has ever seen before. But to his surprise, Rui let herself be captured, and when the professor least expects it, she breaks free and traps him with her power, erasing his memory in just 2 seconds so that he remembers nothing about her or Xuan's family. She then steals his computer, which might have enough power for what she needs. There she finds the files of all the candidates the professor had, so she looks for them and warns them about the danger. However, some have been on Earth for so long that they've already gotten used to this life. They've lost all their mental power and simply live in peace. In Rui's case, she has enough mental power left for 200 days. After that, she'll be as weak as a human, and she had to see it up close, since that morning her mother was taken to the hospital after suddenly fainting. Yushin confesses to her that her mother has something in her lungs. For years they've tried to help her, but no doctor has been able to. So that night she goes to her hospital bed and analyzes her with her powers. At the moment, she has the power to heal her, but that would greatly reduce her mental power reserves, and she still hasn't fulfilled her mission. It's not an easy decision to make since she would have less than 2 months left to contact her people. After that, her power will be depleted and she will be stranded on Earth like the rest of the candidates. With her fighting skills, she manages to get a job as a trainer at a boxing gym. But even when she's hitting the punching bag, she can't get Xuan's mother out of her mind. To Rui, she's just an insignificant human. But she can't deny that ever since she's inhabited this body, Xuan's mother has always been kind and caring toward her. Luckily for the family, Zihai's father is extremely wealthy and used his influence to have the best doctor operate on Xuan's mother. After that, Rui is left with only 18% of her mental power to ensure that Xuan's mother has a completely healthy body and can live for many more years. A few days later, Rui's fighting skills catch the attention of the gym owner, who puts her through some tests, and then tries to recruit her for a secret project called District 7, a private security company with a lot of power throughout the city and computers that could help Rui achieve her goal. On the other hand, for Zihai, asking his father for help was a way to confess his feelings to Rui, even though she doesn't know anything about human relationships for now. But that changes as they spend more time together, and soon she starts to realize that although humans are inferior in terms of technology, they have something else. Unfortunately for Rui, the professor's right-hand man kept physical copies of all the files, so now he is the one who knows that she is hiding something. On the other hand, Zihai learns a sad truth. His father used his fortune to keep him away from his mother, telling him that she had died. Now she has returned to tell him that she had been hiding for a long time because his father used to beat her and threatened her life if she didn't disappear. All of this started when she confessed to him that she no longer loved him. From that day on, Zihai's father did everything he could to get her out of their lives. Without thinking twice, Zihai leaves his father's house and that afternoon tells Rui that he will be living with his mother, who truly supports his dreams. A few days later, his father calls him to demand that he come back. His mother has filled his head with lies and it's time for him to come to his senses. That night, during the school's karaoke festival, the teacher causes a blackout and starts attacking everyone with his new weapon. A weapon that uses the mental power of those he captured and with which he plans to eliminate Rui once and for all. And during this fierce battle, Rui had to use more mental power than he had planned, leaving him almost completely drained. Although she managed to defeat the crazy teacher, the counter on her arm reached 0 and she lost consciousness. Emergency teams took her to the hospital, where she ended up in a kind of coma for almost 2 days. Yang, Rui's partner in District 7, wants to know what happened. They know the teacher was present, but he managed to escape before they arrived. For now, the priority is for Rui to wake up. The doctors say she's in a coma like they've never seen before, as if she were hibernating. Meanwhile, on another note, the teacher wakes up in a basement full of machines. His face is completely covered in bandages and he doesn't know where he is. And a strange doctor tells him he can leave whenever he wants, but when he opens the door, the sunlight burns him like a vampire and he has to return to the darkness of the basement. Back at the hospital, things are not going well. A strange man has infiltrated Rui's room and is using his powers on her. Luckily, her mother arrives and the man leaves before completing his objective. In the blink of an eye, 3 years have passed and Rui still hasn't woken up from her coma, and everyone's life has taken a different direction. Zihai is about to become a doctor, a profession he chose in hopes of helping Rui come out of her coma. That night, his father asks him to come to dinner and introduces him to Tian, who has just returned from the United States to work at his company. His father isn't stupid. He wants Ji-hai to give up on becoming a doctor and to lead the company together with his high school girlfriend, whom he has supported up until the moment he could use her to his advantage. Back at the hospital, someone has entered Rui's room and is planning to take her away. Luckily, Ji-hai was arriving and caught the villain, who fled before he could carry out his plan. Next, we move to a state-of-the-art laboratory where a group of geologists has an extraterrestrial rock and they are applying large amounts of electricity to it. When the machine reaches its maximum power, the rock begins to glow and all the aliens similar to Rui start to suffer from intense pain. Rui begins to convulse until the machine is turned off, and the scientists believe the experiment was a failure. And in that same laboratory, we see that Tian is present, and now we know that the place belongs to Ji-hai's father. That night, a security guard thinks it's an ancient rock used for sacrifices, so he throws some of his own blood on it, hoping for a reward from the gods or something like that. But what happens is something very different. The rock starts to glow and sticks to his hand until he dies in a strange way. Ji-hai's father shows up and the scientists show him the guard's body. He's completely drained as the rock sucked all his blood in seconds. Shortly after, the rock activates again, and at that moment, Rui finally wakes up from the coma. Her arm shows that her mental power has slowly recharged, but she has no idea how much time has passed. A few days after starting university, Rui was approached by a guy named Jung, whom we recognize as the leader of the research team studying the rock. That same afternoon, the team was drilling samples from the rock, but this caused Rui unbearable pain, and she almost fainted right there in the courtyard. Yang finds out that the guard has disappeared and tries to find out why, but he's only told that the guard suddenly quit and never came back. While investigating the source of the pain, Rui encountered another alien who was experiencing the same thing. However, being weaker, he could barely endure it. She managed to evade him, but the guy turns out to be a stalker who already knows almost everything about her, except how to beat her in a fight. And while all this is happening, the professor is locked away in a basement trying to invent some cure for his condition, far from sunlight and human company. Although it's hard for everyone to grasp that more than 3 years have passed, for Rui it was just a blink of an eye, since she spent hundreds of years at the bottom of the sea. Later that day, she manages to track down Tanlu, the guy who tried to kidnap her at the hospital. He is from another species and has the ability to steal mental power. However, upon seeing the enormous amount of power accumulated in Rui, he surrendered immediately. On the other hand, having gotten Rui back after so long taught Ji-hai not to hold back her feelings any longer, so she went all in to win her over. And thanks to Tanlu's help, Rui managed to infiltrate the laboratory where they keep the mysterious rock, but she decided to leave it there so they could find out what it really is. Now that Ji-hai has opened her heart to Rui, they're spending more and more time together. Even her father agreed to be part of her life under her terms, and now the boy will be able to choose his own future. However, it seems he lacks tact when it comes to dealing with problems, since the first thing he did after gaining access to his father's money was to hire 2 neurology experts and trick Rui into attending a dinner and diagnosis, which made her feel like someone who was broken, and he couldn't help but apologize out of fear of losing her again. All of this made Rui realize that she had forgotten her mission to return home. She can't allow herself to be swept away by love. Her mission is to return to her people, so she decides to cut all ties with Ji-hai. Meanwhile, the professor continues conducting experiments with more candidates and has found a way to turn them into mental power hunters. All of this is under the sponsorship of Ji-hai's father, who believes that the future of the world lies in extraterrestrial technology. However, some say that he is playing God. With the help of her powers, Rui discovers that District 7 is also after the stone and that they know it is some kind of energy source or transporter. A few days later, Tian is surprised in the laboratory when he conducts a test with the stone, mixing electricity and magnetism, which manages to activate it for a few seconds. And not far from there, Tanlu is at a karaoke bar with Rui when they both feel the signal from the rock in their bodies, and Tanlu knows that the door to his home is almost open. And although he can't contain his excitement, Rui doesn't feel the same, as she has an internal conflict that makes her doubt whether she still wants to return or not. Ji-hai's father learns about his Wonder Girl's progress, and the team believes that if they can find the exact frequency, they will be able to keep the rock active indefinitely. However, the experiment takes an unexpected turn. During the tests, the rock exploded into 1,000 pieces, completely ruining the project and the millions that Ji-hai's father had invested in it. To correct his mistake, Tian begins to track the whereabouts of the rock. Maybe that way he can find another one. The only problem is that place is believed to be cursed. because basically in the last expedition made up of 10 people, they disappeared. But there's nothing that money can't buy, and Jihai's father sends more people to that mountain. After 2 days of expedition, the explorers enter the cave where they're supposed to find the extraterrestrial stones. But what they end up finding is a terrible death at the hands of creatures that are not from this world. From District 7, they witness the death of the explorers, since one of them was a spy working for them and his brother had to witness his horrible fate. In an attempt to find out what happened to their colleague, the group prepares the same expedition, but this time they bring Tian along to analyze what occurred. The idea that a monster devoured one of their own terrifies them, and some believe it would be better to turn back. But Jihai's father has threatened to ruin their lives if they don't achieve some results. Not far from there, Rui also feels drawn to that area and is very close to arriving. Just before the second expedition is also inevitably killed, Rui arrives to save them all and shows them that they are not beasts. They are humans who for some reason have changed into an animal state. Once everyone is safe, Rui goes back alone, armed with some glowing daggers she stole from the creatures, and she is not afraid to take them down. With great skill, she takes down all the transformed ones. But there comes a point when they outnumber her and she almost falls in battle. Luckily for her, the group decides to return and help her, managing to get her out of the cave safely, where they meet Jihai. He found out they would come to this place and came alone, obviously to make sure Rui was okay. Finally, together, they come up with a plan. It turns out that Jihai found some rocks that react to sunlight and heat up to a high temperature. If they can reflect the outside light onto the rocks, they might have a weapon with which they can eliminate the enemies. These rocks, combined with Rui's mental power, are a lethal weapon for everyone. But now the whole group is aware that Rui possesses certain abilities. Using the same technique, the group reaches the end of the cave, where there appears to be a water source and a hut. But they better remember that nothing there is to be trusted. Behind the kids comes the professor, who, thanks to Jihai's father's money, found a solution to his strange condition. However, now he owes him a lot and he better get results. After this, the group has the brilliant idea to camp inside the cave, since apparently there are no more hostile creatures. But they think it's a better decision than risking going out without support. That night, Jihai once again pours all his love onto Rui and confesses that he loves her. Although she also sheds a tear, it's too late to accept his feelings. Everything around her seems to possess mental power and Rui can connect with every single thing. She tells them that this cave was created by the impact of a meteorite from her planet, so everything they see is how her home planet usually looks. In that place, she is much stronger, so much so that she could finally fulfill her dream of returning home. They just need to find a rock similar to the previous one, and after a long time digging, they find one that's much bigger and just what they need. Unfortunately, the professor and his people arrive to ruin the celebration. At that moment, Jihai confirms his suspicions that his father is not the honest person he always bragged about. He's involved in all kinds of illegal businesses, and this is one of them. That's why his father begs him to side with the winners. However, Jihai stays with Rui, and the conflict is about to erupt. Tanlu, Yang, and Rui are able to fight and defend themselves, but Xing and Yu Chen are a completely different story. Even so, in an act of bravery, Jung reveals to everyone that he was always an alien secretly working at the company and throws himself onto the rock, using all his power to open the intergalactic portal. Unfortunately, his mental power is not enough and he dies after making the ultimate sacrifice. During that distraction, the professor's men capture Xing. Now they want Rui to open the portal or her friend will die too. Realizing the chaos they are causing and that his son could die, Jihai's father changes his mind and orders his men to withdraw. However, the professor had already bribed them a long time ago and now they only obey him. But Rui takes advantage of this distraction to generate a massive shockwave with her mental power that incapacitates all the villains. With pain in his eyes, Jihai watches as Rui approaches the rock, fully intending to activate it. It's time to return home and for Swan to get his body back. With an emotional hug and an "I love you," Jihai says goodbye to the alien, who allows himself to shed a tear as he finally understands what love means to humans. A few seconds later, he places his hand on the rock, which begins to absorb all his mental power until it almost leaves him drained. The rock glowed even brighter than before, but it wasn't enough, and Tanlu also sacrificed himself to open the portal, both of them making a futile attempt. It seems that neither of them has the power needed to open the portal, and now they're about to fall into a coma like before, not knowing if it will last 3 years or 30 this time. In the midst of desperation, Yu Chen kicks the stone, managing to move it and align it with the figure on the wall. At that moment, a huge portal opens in front of everyone. The light coming from the portal completely recharged Rui and Tanlu's energies, who had finally achieved their goal, and some beings from their world crossed over to Earth. Rui introduces herself to these beings, states her name and validation code, and everyone discovers that she is the commander-in-chief of the entire Scorpio fleet. Her people welcome her back after an eternity trapped in another world and report on the victory that has brought them peace, but also on the loss of 27,000 of their men. A minute later, the Grand Master of the Order appears and welcomes her. They have been waiting for their leader for a long time, and she has finally returned. Rui only has a few seconds to say goodbye to everyone, just like Tanlu, who has earned his chance to return to his people. However, Rui changes her mind. If her people waited for her for thousands of years, they can wait for her through one more earthly life cycle. Although her mission as Rui has finally been completed, she has an obligation to Swan that she must fulfill. The Grandmaster grants her the legendary Orb of Power, a relic that will keep her power at its peak under any circumstances. This way, she will be able to return to them when her life cycle ends. In this way, Rui returns to Earth to live her life with her family and, even better, with Jihai, who for a moment thought he would lose her forever. And for the Scorpio Galaxy, a human lifespan is just a blink of an eye. But for Rui, it's the beginning of an entire life with a boy she now loves. Let's hope it's enough, at least for now. And well, it seems that Swan also fulfilled her dream of being invaded by an alien? I don't know. But if, on the other hand, you don't want to be invaded by an alien or abducted or anything like that, you'd better watch another one of my recaps.